Hi, I'm Maria Noto from the Orangevale History Project, and we are here today, June 21st, 2023, to interview two longtime Orangevale residents and perhaps some of their friends and relatives. Sharron, we're going to start with you.
Okay.
If you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us about why we're interviewing you, starting with Fatu, Peru.
I'm Sharon Bailey Bolden Turner. That means I've been married twice. And he was my grandfather, and I really did not know him very well because he died when I was like about 18 months old. And we were living in Los Angeles. I was born at White Memorial Hospital in Los Angeles. And he was sick. And so then my parents decided to come back to Orangevale and to take care of him. And I was just 18 months old when he passed away.
And what year was that?
What does it say on that? He passed away, I don't have the exact date.
Okay, well...
I know I have it, but it's probably not on this sheet.
All right, that's all right. Yeah. Keep going.
Okay, so he was able to come to this country. He was from India, but he was able to come to this country as a young man and work the land. And in those days, if you worked the land, you could get property. And so he was able to get about 15 acres of property here in Orangevale. But he met my grandmother, Minnie Brown Peru Bosch, ally Bosch, because she was married 3 times. And her father was Noah Brown, an African-American man, who married Lula Netherland, who was Cherokee Indian and Irish. So that was quite a combination. And that had my grandmother, Minnie Brown, Peru, ally Bosch. She outlived all of her husbands. You know, she would remarry because she was a very beautiful young woman, and so she would, you know, outlive these men, and then there'd be someone else that would be wanting to marry her. So but she ended up in Olivehurst was her last place of where she lived, was Olivehurst. But we lived, of course, in Orangevale because that was my grandfather's property. And he built that house. I should have brought a picture of the house. I had a picture of it. He built that house on the hill there on Illinois Avenue, you know. And we always lived on that hill as young kids. And we could never have a bicycle or anything because it was too dangerous, according to my parents, because we lived on this hill on Illinois Avenue. Well, right now on Illinois Avenue, there's that Andrew Carnegie School is right across from where we used to, our initial property. But there's a house there that has the exact same house number that we had, 5819 Illinois Avenue. And so the 3 of us girls, we grew up there. Myself being the oldest, my sister Jackie, the middle, and my sister LaWanda, the youngest.
Does the house still stand?
No, because that property was sold, and I had the last piece of that property, and so I started paying taxes on that property when I was like 17, because my parents couldn't afford to keep it up any longer, because my mother's dad, you know, was ill, gave the property to my mother. They kept the property up and paid all the taxes on it, the 15 acres. But then they sold a little bit off. I don't know if you remember the family, the Gooches.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, they lived like down the hill. Yeah.
What was it?
Gail and Sonny.
Yeah.
Gail Gooch. Oh,
yeah. Okay. So they lived kind of down the hill, but so part of the property was sold off to them, and so then my parents had 10 acres. But of that 10 acres, 5 acres was in my name, but I was so young that they just paid the taxes on it, but there was never anything on it other than field, open field. And so then, as I got older and I was keeping on the property on that, on that piece, then there came a time when it seemed only natural that I would sell. And the other, I had 5 acres. My aunt, my dad's aunt, really, she was my great aunt. She had the other part of that property. Somehow the title got over to her because there was some dealings in property switching and all of that. So there came a time when she wanted to just go ahead and get rid of the property. She lived in Los Angeles. We lived up here. So at the time it seemed like the right thing to do because I was married at the time. I had a small child, and we were kind of getting ourselves settled in Livermore, my first husband, in Livermore. So then we sold that property, and then of course now what's on that property are all these homes, and I look back on it, I'm going, God, they got it at a steal, because now there are all these homes, and that property goes all the way back, almost to Almond Avenue. And but that we had it for a long time, and we were like the first black family here in Orangevale. And again, 3 girls that grew up all in Orangevale, and then we kind of spread out a little as we got older and got married, and my sister was in a beauty pageant. I was in a beauty pageant. My sister was in a beauty pageant. She was the real winner. She was the real beauty. But that was my second sister. She was a dancer. She took from Jerry Curry years, and he helped choreograph her number when she was in the Miss Sacramento contest. He helped choreograph her number, and not very many African American girls tried out for Miss Sacramento because that was very pure, So she was like only maybe the second that ever tried out for it that I knew of. And then one year there was a black girl that won it, Pat Williams.
Yes, she sang. She was a singer, Pat
Yes.
Williams. What year was that?
I can't remember what year it was. I really can't remember, but
52, 53.
Yeah, but that was after my sister. She had already won the Miss Bronze Sacramento beauty pageant, and she also was like one of the runner-ups in the Northern California pageant. Because she was a runner-up in the Northern California pageant, they took her to the state pageant, the 3 girls, and she was first runner-up. During that time when Marilyn McCoo was in that pageant, and the photographer was Lamont McLemore, who was the photographer for Jet Magazine for many years, and Billy Eckstein was the one that sang to the winner, and he was like, oh, Billy Eckstein, oh, he was so gorgeous, Yeah. Marilyn McCoo, Marilyn. Oh. Marilyn won the talent contest, of course, and she's still around singing. Yeah, she and Billy, she and Billy. So that was really a lot of fun to go down there and see my sister compete in that and have her do so.
And which sister was this?
Jackie.
Jackie.
She's the second sister, Jacqueline Renee Curtis. She didn't even know her name was Jacqueline until she got married and had to get a birth certificate, And then she got mad at my parents, It's like, my name was Jacqueline all these years and you guys used to call me Jackie.
So tell us about your school years.
Well, I started first grade with this one and Dennis.
And me too.
And Julie, we started first grade together. I was pretty oblivious, I didn't know what was going on. Really.
Was this at Roberts or Orangevale?
No, Orangevale, because Roberts didn't come about until Jackie's class was the first class at Roberts Elementary. We were all at Orangevale.
The old
Except
Roberts.
the old Roberts.
We started at the
we
old
started, Yeah, we started at the old
On
Roberts.
Greenback, and what was the
Lane.
corner? What-
Kenneth.
Greenback and Kenneth.
Greenback. But that only went first and second grade. Was kindergarten there?
No, we
We
never heard of. We never had kindergarten.
No, it was first
No,
and
no kindergarten.
First and second grade, yeah. So, but I was pretty oblivious to school, and and I never felt like I had any friends. I was just kind of like bumping around and that sort of thing. But I always kind of got into like sporting things with Mr. Floyd.
Oh my God.
Mr. Floyd, yeah. And he kind of encouraged me like, oh, you want to come and run track, or you want to do the baseball throw? And we used, our school went to Ileton. Ileton was the,
That was at that's, Mr. Floyd was in Orangevale.
yes,
Yeah,
it was at
okay.
Orangevale. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Oh, the only thing I remember about first and second grade was that one time I got on the monkey bars and I couldn't get down. And I was crying, and I couldn't get down, and people, everyone tried to come and help me down. I couldn't get down. I was up there all by myself. That was the big standout. But I loved Mrs. Allison, our second grade teacher. Oh, she was wonderful. She was wonderful, and she's the one that really helped me have an appreciation for spelling and math. So she had a way of teaching that, was, everyone could learn, So, but then after that time, of course, we went to Orangevale Elementary School. So that was like 3rd through 8th grade at Orangevale Elementary School. And that's when I kind of got into some sports kind of stuff, and that sort of thing. But I was just kind of oblivious to grammar school.
So we didn't have junior high either.
No, we did not have junior high school at all.
Well, when we interviewed Mary Chambers, she remembers that you were a very good student, you and Sharon Holly.
Well, Sharon Holly was the very good student, because there was always this like, the Bailey girls were the cute girls, and the Holly girls were the smart girls. That's how it always was, And then there was always that competition, subtle competition. But no, Sharon, as you probably know since you've already interviewed her, she has her PhD from Princeton.
Yeah.
And so she's, has really excelled academically. My academic achievement went through Sacramento State for 2 years, and then I got married, and then started going Sacramento City and American River, and then my husband and I moved to Oregon because he was going to work on his master's degree at Oregon State University. So then I had some courses at Oregon State University, but all of my courses together, I probably have enough to get an AA degree. So Sharon Holly could say, I have a PhD, and I could say, well, I almost have an AA degree. But I've achieved really wonderful things in my work history. I'm very proud of my achievements in my work history.
Where did you work?
Well, I worked at
the Capitol?
yes. Well, the first place I worked was at Mather Air Force Base. Was the first real job I had, and I was in the dental clinic there, and I was also a passport agent. I was commissioned for the Department of State to issue passports to military and civilians, because I worked in family services. And then that's, even though I was married at the time, and I was producing these beauty pageants, because when I was in the Miss Bronze beauty pageant, it was brand new, and it was such a wonderful thing for African American girls to have something like that. And I would call on my friend Julie, because Julie was Miss Sacramento, and she knew all about modeling and everything, and she could help the girls with the modeling, and so. But I did that pageant for 5 years, and I've had girls come back to me and say, "Oh, I'm so glad that you did that pageant, because it gave me a level of confidence that I never would have had."
So that was in Sacramento.
Yes, I had Miss Bronze Sacramento, and Miss Bronze Tri-Valley. So I had those, and those winners went to the pageant in the Northern California pageant in San Francisco at the Jack Tar San Francisco at the Jack Tar Hotel.
And this was also Miss Bronze?
Miss Bronze, that was a runner-up to the state pageant. And at that time, any black beauty pageant winners, it was always just a give your photo to Howard Moorhead. He was like this top photographer. He was really well known and did a lot of photography. So he would, people would send in their pictures to him, and he would pick a winner, and okay, there's the winner, But the Miss Bronze, leading up to the state pageant, was the first actual pageant where you had the girls interviewing bathing suit, gowns, all like that. So it was the very first one. So that was really exciting. So to travel to San Francisco and then to travel to Los Angeles, I mean, I'm from Orangevale, So I did that, and I was working at Mayfair Air Force Base. I was married, and I was doing the beauty pageant and the fashion shows that went along with the beauty pageants, And each year it would get larger and larger and larger. We started at the Elisa Shari's studio was the first pageant that we had. And then Lisa Shari was a white, she had a studio, a dance studio. Yeah, do you remember that name, Jill? Lisa
I remember the name. She had a theater there too, and I did carousel.
She did, and Sharon did Frankie and Johnny when she was there. Yeah. So, but that started our very first one. But then it went from there. Then it just really exploded, and our pageants were like at the Sacramento Inn, and it just really got large. So, but I did that for 5 years. As I said, I was working, I was going to school, and I was doing the beauty pageant, and I was married. So all of that. I don't know why they just didn't put me out of my job, because I was constantly on the phone doing something else other than my job and the passport agent. But that was early on, and then later I worked at the state capitol, and I was an executive assistant to the personnel director in the Assembly Rules Committee, and I did that for a number of years. And then I worked on the Senate side in the very first Asian American Pacific office that Senator Roberti at the time initiated with 2 Asian women that I knew, very, very well. And so they had me come over with them. Well, it was a good thing, because when I was in the assembly, politics as it is, I was in the assembly for like 7 years, and all of a sudden there was a change of administration, and it's like, oh, Sharon, you're a little high up there on the echelon of, authority in that level of persuasion, So it's like, oh, we need to get rid of her, and we need to put our own person in there. So they called me in like on a Friday. They said, today's your last day. I'm going, last day for what? But I was fortunate that I slid over to the Senate side. And then I finished out 3 years on the Senate side before my second husband, and I went to Ohio.
So were you living in Orangevale during that time when you were working?
Sacramento.
In Sacramento.
Sacramento.
We kind of skipped over your high school years. Did you go to San Juan?
I did. I graduated from San Juan. My mother graduated from San Juan. Her brother graduated from San Juan. And my middle sister, Jackie, graduated from San Juan High School. With these guys right here, 1959, right?
Yep.
1959, we graduated from San Juan High School. So I went all 4 years at San Juan High School. I got into a lot of clubs there, and you can probably see from the summary, I got into a lot of clubs. I remember my counselor, Mrs. Buchanan, who my mother had as a counselor when she was going to San Juan. You know, she said, Sharon, just find some clubs that you like and just join clubs that you like. So I became kind of popular in that way, and I was elected to girls vice president of the student body in my senior year. But we played sports. Nancy, didn't we play sports?
Yes. Field hockey.
Field hockey. We played them all, though. We played field
Played 'em all.
hockey,
Baseball.
basketball,
Tell them
baseball.
about your uniforms.
The little bloomer, one piece bloomer.
Bloomers. I forgot about that. Short bloomers.
Well, you were trying. I know.
Short bloomers, right? So,
Green.
but high school, it was good. It was good, and I had people like Nancy and Julie and a number of people that I came through with. And then San Juan at the time, they had the big sister, little sister program.
Yeah.
So if you were an 8th grader going into high school, then you were assigned a senior girl that would kind of help you with the transition. So I had like Emily, I can't think of her name, Mitchell. Emily Mitchell.
Emily Mitchell.
Yeah, Emily Mitchell. And so she was my big sister. So that was a nice transition. I think about the kids nowadays, they don't have that. They're just 8th grade, high school.
You guys never had that.
And the guys never had, no, the guys didn't need it because you guys are so bold and everything. Yeah.
No, we weren't.
It seemed like it. But I guess, I don't know if there's something else that you want to. Our team seriously could beat the seniors. Our hockey team, our basketball team, our volleyball team.
As freshmen.
Yes, as freshmen. Well, and of course the sophomores and juniors, and then when we got to be seniors, we were tops, But we were kind of scrappy, we were kind of scrappy team. So
it sounds like, did you have problems with racial discrimination?
the only time I had any of that I knew of was a senior boy that called me the N-word. And I told the counselor, and they made him come in and apologize to me. And he was a very popular guy. I remember his name. I won't say his name, but I remember him. He was very, very popular, very good-looking guy. But he felt so bad,
Well, good.
Yeah. But I didn't run into a lot of that at San Juan High School. I don't know. Because, San Juan was a conglomerate of Orangevale, Fair Oaks, Citrus Heights, Carmichael, and so everyone was, I think, trying to feel their way. But I was very fortunate, and I don't think my sister did either, Jackie, when she was going to San Juan, because I guess if you're kind of into different things, then they kind of leave you alone. They may have, hidden agendas, but it was never really prominent. Yeah, so I was very fortunate.
Where did your family shop?
The Wu Family Market down there on Greenback and Hazel. That was the only one.
I didn't.
Greenback Lane and Hazel was the Wu's. And my parents helped them because when they came, of course, they were not established like my family background was. And so my parents, in a sense, vouched for them. But my mother went to school with Albert Wu and what was the younger ones? I can't think of his name.
Albert was our age.
Albert was our age, and then there was another
I don't know.
another one that was older.
Henry
Henry.
and Harry.
Yeah.
There was 3 or 4 more.
Yeah.
There were a
big
lot
families.
of Wu
Yeah, Grant and Clarence.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were. Who said they were from Hawaii?
I don't think I never heard
Somebody
that.
said they were from
The Wu
Hawaii.
family was
Mr.
from
Wu.
Part
China.
of them.
Mr. Wu was born in Hawaii,
Okay.
which is how we got into the country.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes, otherwise he wouldn't have been allowed in.
He was from China, though, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes, he moved to China, but he was born in Hawaii.
Oh, I'll be darned.
Because every time you in the store, he'd say, "Well, are you my little Chinaman?" I'd go in with my grandfather. He'd always say that.
Oh my
And I go,
gosh.
"Oh, okay, I don't know." He'd always ask me.
But anyway, that kind of takes you through high school and my college years
So
and
what are
my
your-
marriages.
What are your general impressions of Orangevale growing up? Just the
Well-
neighborhood, the community?
Well, we were so spread out, you know, like it was very seldom that,
Came here every summer for art lesson.
yeah, Nancy's family was just super, Julie's family was super, Dennis and I went to Dennis asked me to the junior, was it the junior dance, Dennis, or
Which one was the prom?
the prom, whichever one that was.
Junior prom?
Junior
Yeah,
prom,
that's right.
yeah. That was the only dance I ever went to with anyone other than a boyfriend, you know, because by that time I had boyfriends that lived in Sacramento
Nice.
and that sort of thing. But Dennis saved me,
Nice.
you know.
All right, Dennis. That's really nice, Dennis.
He did.
I had a big white horse then.
He did. I liked it.
I think at this point, since people are chiming in, Julie, would you introduce yourself?
I'm Julie Vandervoort Curry. My parents were Dolores and Charles Vandervoort. We lived at 8500 Greenback Lane. My mother and Nancy, my cousin, her mother were sisters, and they had a brother, which is Rod's father, George Russell Hill. We already called him Bud.
Yeah, good.
And I started the first grade with everyone, but then we moved and went down to Del Paso Manor off of El Camino and Marconi. Then we came back and lived in the big house on 8500 Greenback Lane. My father sang at all the functions around town. He had a beautiful, glorious voice.
Clearly, we're going to, if it's okay with you, we'll do a separate interview with you because I've been trying to track down the Vandervoorts, so
Oh,
I'm excited.
I have an aunt who's 100 years old, going to be in another week.
Yes, that's very exciting. So I would love to interview you at a later time.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Sure, yeah.
Great. Sharon, anything else you want to say about your story before we pick on Nancy?
You were in choir.
I did a lot of choir in high school with Julie, and that was always fun. And I married a guy from Sacramento, a very prominent Sacramento black family, and we were married for we went together for 5 years, and then we got married, and then we were married for 18 years after that, and we had 2 children, 2 great, really super kids, you know, and I'm a grandmother and I'm a great-grandmother. So
Have to put in there that you and Barry introduced Fred and I.
that's right. That's right. My
Sharon
husband
and Barry introduced Fred and I.
Yeah, because we were in the Porsche Club, and Fred was in the Porsche Club, and he was single, and Nancy was single. Oh gosh, we have a friend that's single. You got to meet Nancy, and that was the end of that.
You got that right.
We met Fred.
Yeah, we met Fred. But yeah, my first husband was a mechanical and electrical engineering background. So he, out of Oregon State University, where he got his master's degree, went to work for Lawrence Livermore Laboratory, and then later to Sandia Laboratory.
I know one thing we forgot is Triangle Garbage.
Oh yes.
Will you tell us about that?
Well, there's so much involved with that because that had to do with my dad. You know, when we moved up from L.A. and he was looking for a job, he couldn't find a job. But there was this, the Hollies and the Wilsons later down the line decided to have this company, and they brought in a third party, which was my dad. But he had to have money to get into the business. And so the only money around was the property. And my mother said, okay, I will give you the deed to the property if you will give us the money to invest in this Triangle Garbage Company. And at that time, it's not like the county garbage companies now. It was just very individual. But so my mother gave them the deed to the property, and they gave her some money for him to invest into his part in the Triangle Garbage Company. And that's what he did for years until he later went to work for Southern Pacific Railroad, Joyce's
Oh, I
dad.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
I understand it was the first garbage company in Orangevale.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. But it wasn't very lucrative, of course. I always said, and my two sisters and I always said, if there was welfare at that time, we should have been on welfare, because the income was like this, and they've got 3 stepstone girls, But, he really liked working with those 2 men, And so he could have given that up and done something else. And my middle sister, Jackie, always said, he could have done something else. But that's what was satisfying to him, because there was a brotherhood there, So, but it was just interesting because we were like down the end of Illinois, and they were across Greenback Lane on the other side of Illinois, but we didn't have a lot of connection except for the Kodiak Cubs family club. Kodiak Cubs family club. And I don't think I put that anywhere, but so Sharon's parents were part of that, and the Wilsons were part of that, and then other people, the Allies, were part of that. That's where my grandmother kind of got into the Ally family and married an Ally. Her second husband was an Ally. But that was a hard life, and he always came home grumpy. And my mother would always say, "Okay, go say hi to your father." We'd go, "Do we have to?" It's so grumpy all the time, But he was a hard worker. He was a hard worker, but it just didn't pay off for him. But it gave us, as young girls, incentive to do better. So there was always that side, like you can learn from a negative, you can learn a positive. And we learned a lot in that manner, in our environment. And there were people, Julie's mother and Nancy's mother. Nancy's mother tried to help my mom get a job because Nancy's mom was at Orangevale elementary school. She was in charge of all of the...
She managed the kitchen.
Yeah, she was in charge of the whole kitchen. So she had my mom come to work for her at one time, but it didn't pan out because there were these 3 girls that were, left alone. And so it just didn't, she was generous. Your mom was very generous in trying to, help in that way. But my mom never really had a full-time job once she moved to Orangevale from L.A. Now, when she was in L.A., she was footloose and fancy-free, and that's where she met my dad. And so she, was doing stuff down there. But then when her dad got sick, and my dad down there was a chauffeur. He was a chauffeur to a lot of Hollywood stars. He was a chauffeur, but that just wasn't going to be his path, and so they came, to Orangevale. So, but and then, like I said, I had the two kids, a boy and a girl. The boy's the oldest, and there's 4.5 years apart, And our son Lance was born in Oregon because his dad was going to school there, and Bethany, our daughter, was born in Sacramento, here in Sacramento. But they're really prosperous kids. They've done really well. Like I remember a time though when my first husband's dad, who was a graduate of Berkeley, and he in those days, he wanted to go into coaching, but there were no black coaches, and he graduated with, an undergraduate degree, came to Sacramento, and so then he ended up working like for the alcoholic beverage control for the state, so, and very much Alpha Phi Alpha, and that was Barry. He was Alpha Phi Alpha also, his dad. His mother was Delta, she was a Delta, they were very much in black society, So then he meets me, and they're not happy because my dad's, Triangle Garbage Company. So it's like, oh, too bad, But we have these great two. But what I was going to say is the grandfather really was worried about the grandson, my son. It's like, is he going to do okay? Is he going to do okay? Well, this kid just excelled in construction and became one of the top people in construction in Sacramento. Companies were always trying to steal him away from the company that he was with. So I said, Barry, you got to take your dad down there and show him Lance's office and let him see what he's doing and everything. It was amazing, the things that he was doing, because he was an apprentice in this construction company, and the owner took him under his wing and would send him to school in Virginia and Texas, and so he really learned a lot in the business. So he really excelled, and he's still really doing well, to this day. Has 2 sons, and he has an older daughter by his first marriage who is now has 4 kids. She has a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old, and then she has twins that are 2. and they are so cute. They are just so cute. So, and then our daughter, of course, she got her, her degree was from the New England College of Optometry. She's an optometrist by
UC Davis.
Well, now she's an optometrist by certificate. She had her doctor of optometry. She's a doctor of optometry, but she settled in Connecticut and had a child, 4 years old, and then she was with this husband for 10 years, but she had this child. But when the child was 4 years, they divorced, and she moved to Sacramento. Could not find anything in optometry. Here she is. She's a doctor of optometry, but she started looking around all over, and she had a chance to go with First and First optometrist, who is well known here in Sacramento, and they do all of the sports people like the 49ers, and they really wanted her, but they couldn't offer her the package that UC Davis Sacramento could offer her, because she had a child now, so she had to think a little differently. So she started in ophthalmology and really liked it. So she is in ophthalmology now and doing really well, so.
So do any of these children live in Orangevale? No. I mean, Roseville, and then Bethany's in Sacramento, like that. Well, thank you. That's wonderful.
That was a lot. I just couldn't stop talking.
So that is Sharon, and now we're going to talk to Nancy a little bit about, now Nancy, in my notes, I have Adobe House on Chestnut, but I have Vandevort connection. And then I have Jean, ? Nita, ?
Who's that?
Have no idea. And I don't know why the Vandevort name would be connected with this property.
I don't know either. It's just something somebody told me and I wrote it down. Okay, so getting rid of
We're
that.
relatives, but nothing to do with the property.
Yeah.
Okay, so Nancy Pierce Myeron.
Right.
When did you get to Orangevale?
I was born here. well, in Sacramento actually, but we lived on this property. My parents bought this property in '39, and it was all in grapes, and they bought it from a J. Smith. They bought the 10 acres for $475, and the house that we lived in was on this far corner. It may have been a fruit shed. I don't really know. And there's also a big tin barn, and I unfortunately I don't know if that was on the property when they bought it. Anyway, they were farmers, and Daddy was a carpenter, and they had pigs and cows and turkeys and rabbits and the whole bit. And then needed a bigger house. So on this far corner, the house up that way, he built. He was the carpenter did it on his own, and it was a small house. It was only 800 square feet. Of course, you think that's wonderful at that time. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, living room and kitchen, and lived there until they decided to build an adobe house. This gets complicated, and I don't know all the whys, but some friends, Mildred and Gifford Teal, very good friends, they, for some reason, built this house, and they were going to live here. He was a minister, but then he got a job in Donnieville, and they never lived here in this house. My parents did. And there was just the living room, kitchen. Anyway, they built on 2 more bedrooms later on, and and this house has been here since probably mid-50s. Dennis, what do you think?
I was thinking of something else. What's the question?
When did I don't know what year this house was built, the adobe house. I'm guessing the mid-50s.
We were little walking around looking at it.
Who?
You and me watched them.
Oh, well,
while they made the bricks.
I was older than, I think I was closer to my teens.
Really? When they were building it?
Really?
No.
Okay, maybe not.
Because
See what you're getting into?
I probably wasn't here yet.
Well, probably.
No, I mean from down south.
Oh, okay.
No, I remember walking around and watching them.
Oh, okay. Well,
I think perhaps you need to introduce yourself.
Oh no.
that's what you're going to get.
Dennis Elliott, what do you want?
Just your name and your relationship to any of these people.
School chums and friends later. A brief history. Here in '46, I was 5. Attended all the schools that they attended until we got into college years. I went to AR for a little while, got tired of that, and went into service, or worked for PG&E, then went into service. But when we were here, my father and my uncle opened a business in Fair Oaks. It was a propane business. And PG&E came along with their natural gas, shut that down. So my dad went back to sheet metal. My uncle opened Elliott's Natural Foods.
Did you live in Orangevale?
No, actually I lived in Fair Oaks.
Okay.
I was on a portion of Pershing Avenue that was considered Fair Oaks rather than Orangevale. I didn't get to Orangevale until I moved over to Cherry Avenue.
Okay.
And then from there I went over to Filbert, across from the Campfire Cafe.
Well, it sounds like we need to interview you too, if you don't mind. I see what happens. This is what happens in these interviews. Is now I have 2 more people to interview.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's good.
If you don't mind.
That's why he's here.
No, I don't mind.
Excellent, excellent. Because you have it sounds like you have a whole story. Elliott's Natural Foods and living on Cherry, and so.
Yeah, those are the 2 things that make it important.
We will interview you at a later date, I think.
Rod's lived here forever too, just right up here on Elm.
That's
I
wonderful.
don't know that fits into what our history is we have here.
Okay, well,
It's a different forever, huh?
Yeah.
He's related, that's the thing.
Yes, he has an older
Yeah.
brother. and
My
they
dad
all went,
was.
They all lived here.
Well, your mom, Lois, and then your mom, Dolores. The three of them who were very close. They were
Yeah.
very close.
Yeah, and your dad was so handsome.
Two sisters and a brother, very close.
okay.
They were wonderful people.
Well, we'd love to interview you too.
Really?
Yes. Let's continue with Nancy. We are in 10 acres for $475, I think.
Yep. And they were here forever. I mean, I was born on this property. I lived on this street all my life except for about 18 months. So I started out in the little, what I call a little cabin, and then the house down here on the other corner of the 10 acres, and then this place. And Fred and I built a house next door. So it was good. They had, a good acre and a half in garden every year. Mom was an artist. Daddy was a carpenter. So she made a big sign, put out in the chestnut and the road, and people came from all over. They, cantaloupe, string beans, jalapenos, melons. And Daddy and Mom did this all by themselves. This wasn't, people didn't come in and help them. I have to say that Sadie Cable, he and our family, she was wonderful. She knew that Daddy had this big garden. He had a little rototiller that he tilled the whole thing up with. She'd send her kids over, who were older naturally, and bring the big tractor over and till it up and to get the ground turned over so it's easier for the rototiller. So that was a long time ago. Of course, the garden was after all the cows and the pigs and that sort of thing. They outgrew that. Mom worked up at the kitchen at Orangevale School, and she'd get a call every once in a while and say, "Loie, you got to go home. The cow's out." And that happened too many times. So that was the end of the cows.
Tell about the wonderful meals that people came all around
Oh,
to
Mom!
eat her food.
Mom was a great
at
cook
school.
up at the school, and this was before processed food. And the bus drivers would come over and say, "Oh, Loie's got homemade whatever it was," and so they'd come and have lunch
At the school?
At the school, yeah, it was good. She was a great cook, and like I said, processed foods came in, so then it was time to retire. So.
A couple of other principals came from other schools, didn't they? And
Oh, I don't. Could be. I just remember the bus drivers because they were able to drive around and go from school to school.
Thelma Woodworker was a bus driver.
The bus driver.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thelma Woodworker.
Okay.
What was her last name?
Woodworker. Thelma Woodworker.
For years.
For years.
She was.
And Bobby Woodworker was his son, I think. Something should be said about your folks, though.
Yes.
When they had the garden, you would come and visit, and if you didn't know right away, you'd find it later when you got home, a big bag of produce sitting in the back seat of your car. Everybody got it.
Oh, see, I didn't. Okay, I didn't
yeah.
know that. Or if you were thirsty,
Oh, yeah.
they always. Daddy had he had an old refrigerator. And he would buy a keg, not the little, the full-side keg, put it in this refrigerator, and he rigged it up so that there was a spout on the side so you could pour your own beer. So people would come by and get their vegetables, sit out at the back table, have a beer or two, and
In a frozen mug.
yes, you're right, in a frozen mug. They had a great life. They were not travelers. They worked really, really hard. So
Great conversationalists.
Oh yeah.
Really good people.
Yes.
Talk about
Really good
politics,
Yeah, they.
important things.
You
in
know,
life.
years ago you had some of the young boys that would come around and knock on your door and have their Bible with them, and Mom and Daddy would say, "Oh, come on in," and sit out at the back table, and by the time they left, they didn't know what they believed.
What were your parents' names?
Lois and Howard Pierce.
Pierce.
And your dad tried to teach me how to play chess. I'll never
Oh, really?
forget that.
Oh, yeah.
He was really good.
Yeah, he loved to play
We need to
chess.
talk about the summertime when your mom would invite everybody over for art lessons.
Well, you know, when
Very
I think
special.
of that, I the only people I remember coming over is Fred Richards and maybe Bobby.
And Linda Richards.
I don't remember Linda doing artwork. Now, she may have, I don't know. But she was an artist. And during the summer when she wasn't working, my kids would, come on over and we'll set up.
Sharon, you were over, weren't you?
Yeah, and I remember when my first husband and I bought a Porsche, I wanted your mom to capture it for him, in a oil painting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and she did. And I was able to give that to him as a gift one year.
So what happened to that?
I think he still has it.
You're kidding.
I
Oh
know.
my God.
I'd love to
Because
see
he still
that.
has the
I'd like to see that too.
Porsche
Wow.
jacket, the
Oh,
Porsche
yeah,
Club
yeah,
jacket.
we-
I
and
remember
everything.
more people coming for art lessons. I
Oh,
really
okay.
do. I was
okay.
there.
And that's
a lot of
fine.
other people.
Yeah. So, they
They are wonderful.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
they did well, and they worked within the community too. I remember when used to be powwow days, and it used to be so many other things, but they would help set up. And this was over on Hazel, across from the community center. It's now I'm sure something for the community too.
Used to be the youth center.
Yeah.
But
The youth center.
yes, the youth center.
It's still
They'd
there.
have the carnival over there, and Daddy would help with the carpentry stuff, and Mom would do quick sketches for $1. So
Drew people for $1?
yeah,
Oh, how
yeah.
cute.
She was very talented.
Oh, I know she
Nancy's
was. I
talented
just heard
also.
yeah,
She is
Nancy's
an
very
artist.
talented.
Yeah.
So,
Nancy could go inside
Anyway,
and
then-
see all the art in there.
you ought to take a look at the bridge that she painted.
Yeah.
Rainbow
before you
Rainbow
go.
Bridge.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I went to grammar school at Orangevale and went to San Juan and
Do the
graduated. I went to maybe
Yes.
a year of American River. Went to work for McClellan Air Force Base and got married, had 2 kids. Liz, my daughter, lives here, and my son Sean lives over off of Hazel, and both of them doing very well. Sean's retired. Liz wants to be. She's in Idaho right now seeing her second grandbaby, and she'll be home maybe Saturday.
She has very special work she does. though.
Yeah, she works
Yes.
for the school district. She works with special ed and teenagers, and these are kids that are able to, at some point, maybe live in a group home, have a part-time job. She's really, really good at what she does.
What's her last name?
A Gibson. She went through a couple of names.
Elizabeth.
She had, she was married to her first husband, and they had Joshua, who's 33, and the twins, Sarah and Alicia. And that was an experience, her going through that pregnancy. Oh my God, it was just...
I think it's significant, and Rod agrees, to go back to the original Orangevale insignia.
Oh yeah, the original. I have a drawing of that somewhere, the Orangevale insignia. She drew the original one.
It's
That was
beautiful.
a long time ago, and I think that when I went to a meeting, there were some frames that had an insignia on it, and I think it was that way. Of course, they've changed over the years.
Now, this is your mother you're talking about.
My mother, yeah. Yeah, forgot about that.
Did she design the first one?
Did she what?
Did she design it and everything?
No, yeah, she's the one that,
I thought
yeah,
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have to hunt that down.
Yeah, yeah. Somewhere. I've been going through a lot of things lately. So, okay, what else? I was working in McClellan. Didn't get my 3 years in there because I got pregnant. And instead of taking maternity leave, I quit. Big mistake. And so then when I needed to go back to work, if I had got my 3 years in, it's much easier to get back on with the government. Didn't happen. So ended up, that marriage didn't last very long, but I got 2 great kids out of it. Went to work, I worked at a Payless on the corner of San Juan and Greenback. And they had a snack bar in there. Does anybody remember that?
I do.
Well, I worked there. And what a rude awakening
Was that after you were married?
after I was divorced.
Okay, you worked
Yeah,
there, okay.
yeah.
That was
Had
like
to go to
safe.
work, didn't have an education. And so I worked there, I don't know, several years. And I remember on Sunday nights was my late shift, and you have to clean the grill at the end of the day. And it's so awful. You came home with burns you didn't know you had. And you're so tired. I remember coming home one night, and I ran a red light. And I went, and there's some kids going, ha, 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 you know, they think it's so funny. And I'm dying because
Of course.
anyway, I worked there, and then Julie's stepdad, Dr. Granstad, his nurse was quitting, and he needed someone. He didn't need to have a nurse because he did the injections and all that kind of stuff. He needed someone to take the patients back, get them weighed. You know, what are you here for? How do you like your coffee? And that's what we did too. So I worked there,
He was
what,
wonderful.
9 years, give or take.
And where was his office?
I worked for him up on Main Avenue.
And tell me his name again?
Granstead, Granstedt.
William.
William, yeah, yeah. So I worked there a long time. And then,
He was wonderful.
where did I go from there?
Worked for another doctor.
Oh, yeah, he had to retire on me. And he went to Salinas. And
And you worked for
at-
another doctor.
Yeah, and I went to another doctor, a couple of them, and Dr. Cox, and then a Dr. Bonnet, and then the last doctor was Dr. Sachs, and I retired with him in 2006. I worked for Sutter.
Did any of those doctors practice in Orangevale?
No, just Dr. Granstead. The others were in Carmichael, over by Mercy San Juan Hospital. Yeah. So that was another really interesting. So after that, the last doctor was Sutter, and that's where I retired from. I met Fred we were married in 70. He must have met him in
69, 68?
It must have been 70 because we met in March and got married in December.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and he worked for the government for the Bureau of Reclamation, and he was really into cars, and he had an old Porsche, and we did a lot of autocrossing, and he worked the races down at Laguna Seca and at Sears Point. So we spent a lot of time doing that. My parents babysat many weekends so we could do that.
I babysat a couple of times.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So, all this time, except for 18 months, you lived on Chestnut.
Chestnut.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
amazing.
It's wonderful.
People
Yeah.
don't do that nowadays.
So,
No.
tell us about your memories of Orangevale Elementary. Favorite teacher, and were the 3 of you in the same grade?
Yeah.
Okay.
The 4 of us.
4 of us.
Ah,
Who was it that retired and they brought in,
Giorso.
and they
We had
brought
Mrs. Douglas.
and they brought in
Douglas, and we
Dr.
loved Mrs.
Giorso that we
Douglas.
dearly loved, and then they brought in Mrs. Douglas, and I don't think we were very nice.
Mrs.
No.
Douglas, we loved Mrs. Douglas.
Yeah.
Brought in Giarso, we didn't like
Yeah.
Giarso.
Oh, was it the other way around?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I remember.
See, that's,
Well,
why
remember
I,
Mrs.
that's why I invited these people.
I
Could have been a
remember.
real
What
problem.
about Mrs. Kirsten?
Oh,
Oh, I never had her, though.
Oh, you
but
didn't?
No.
Oh, she
my
taught our
gosh.
parents.
Yeah,
Mrs.
she taught
Kirsten.
At Roberts.
I had Mrs.
No,
Kirsten.
no. At
Orangevale
Orangevale.
Elementary School.
But where did she teach your mother? Not at Orangevale.
My mother had Mrs.
I don't
Kirsten
know.
too.
But where
It was
what
in
school?
Orangevale.
Oh, yes. We interviewed a man named Mr. Call, Jim Call, who spoke very fondly of Mrs. Kirsten.
She was.
And he's 98.
I had her for 2 years.
We had her 2 years, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
She was a wonderful
She followed
woman.
us.
She was a
She
jewel.
followed us.
Yeah, we were in third grade or fourth,
Fourth and
and she moved up to the
Fourth
fourth
and
grade
fifth.
with us, and or maybe a little bit lower, but
Yeah.
yeah.
She kept moving with us because we were the last of the.
And
People
she
who had
kept,
parents
and
in
she'd write
Orangevale.
neat things in your report card.
Yeah.
Even though you flunked everything, she was
She was just very. We were very important to her because
was
she knew our
wonderful.
parents.
Yeah, she had my mother. My mother was in her class, you know.
Mine too.
Something, yeah.
I think
And I just want to say about Mrs. Douglas, we all loved her so much, and she had to take a leave of absence, as I recall.
Yes.
And they were going to get in a new teacher, and so we all kind of huddled together and said, "We're not going to like this new teacher. Let's make spitballs, and when that new teacher comes in, let's throw spitballs at
We
that
were
new
terrible.
teacher." We were terrible.
I don't remember us being that
And then
terrible.
we loved her.
Well, Nancy, you were never terrible. Nancy was the sweet one.
And then we fell in love with Mrs. Giorso.
Right, yeah.
We used to have the dance.
Social dance.
No, that was with. I remember that. That was in our
Leavers.
seventh, and eighth grade. But before that, we did the folk dancing
Oh yes.
out
okay.
on the.
Who led that?
Huh?
Who led it?
Well, I think it was just part of the school program.
Oh.
Do you remember that, Dennis?
Who
the
taught
folk
it?
dancing, and we did it.
Who taught us how to do it? I think it was our
This-
teacher.
Right, our teachers. And we were out in the basketball courts because it was big and it was flat.
is this at
At
Orangevale?
Orangevale
Yes,
School.
always,
Yeah.
Orangevale.
And then we
Joe and
had,
Howard
yeah.
and-
Chuck Carr was your partner.
Yes, and Chuck was my partner.
Well, wait a
Chuck
minute.
was
No,
my
you're talking
partner.
about
That's
two different things.
Yeah,
Two
that's
different things.
When the Leavers would,
When you're talking about her and Chuck being partners, you're talking about 7th and 8th grade.
Yeah, right.
One,
No, I'm talking about social dance. I'm not social. Folk dancing.
Oh, okay. Then I didn't know
the
that one.
Almond left and Dos
Yeah, okay.
and all
Yeah.
that.
But then in the later grammar school years,
Carol Lever.
Carol Lever and Linda Richards' mother, they got together and they taught social dancing, the waltz, the foxtrot, the tango,
The samba.
the samba,
Yeah.
Jitterbug.
and
The
we got
jitterbug, right,
we
right.
got trophies. I still have 2 of those trophies.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that was
Yeah.
that was a
That
fun
was
time.
a fun
And then
time.
we also had a great competitive sports program because we would go to, was it Ileton?
Ileton.
50-yard dash. I could do it every time.
And Nancy, and you'd put the eraser in the square box.
I don't remember that one.
You put you're talking about the 50-yard dash. I'm talking about the relay, I guess.
Yeah. They had relays and 50
Yeah.
and 100-yard dash.
Yeah.
But we got to do a lot of fun
the
things.
eraser in the square box? What are you talking about?
You had the eraser and you ran to the first box and then you came back,
Drop
got the
it in,
other
and
eraser,
then-
and then you went to the second
Oh,
box and then you came back. And I
Did that
was
professionally, or was it
yes,
just
professional. and Dennis, I was so good that when we actually competed, I fell down and started crying and and wouldn't finish the race.
We also had what do you call them? Shows on that little theater on the where we had lunch.
In the
where we ate.
gymnasium. The
Gymnasium, yeah.
Oh, okay.
They had
Oh.
a stage, and we did a lot of performing there. Do you remember that?
Sorry.
But the school did
You guys
a lot
do
of
better
stuff.
than I do. Huh?
The school did a lot of things that
We
you don't
no,
even
we
see
did
today.
yeah, it was.
Yeah,
we really had a good grammar school. A lot of wonderful functions, and then I went to San Juan, and was active in sports, and hated Spanish. I sat in the back of the room and just prayed that he wouldn't ask. He never once called on me, ever.
Nancy, we all hated Spanish because he was a lecherous old teacher.
Oh, you-
And there was always
I
this
remember
one
her.
girl, remember Carolyn? I can't remember her last name, but she always
Oh!
wore the real low dresses and everything.
She was my neighbor.
Oh, was she? And he would always come over and look down her dress and we'd go,
Oh, I don't remember that. Wow. My memory is
watch
pretty
him.
bad.
I'm going to sit in the back of the room.
I did. It
And-
didn't happen to me.
Went to a lot of football games.
I remember his name.
Yeah, yeah, and that was good. Yes, high school was.
Well, who was the teacher? Mr. Hager taught.
No, oh, you mean Spanish?
Yeah.
Mr. Farr.
Mr. Farr. He was my
No, it
substitute
was-
Spanish teacher.
He
Farr,
okay.
F-A-R-R?
Yeah.
Doesn't sound familiar. I
Farr.
I can see his
Put
face.
down that girl's dress. And,
Okay. Anyway,
really know that.
and then graduation. We graduated at the Memorial Auditorium. And my poor parents, oh my God, that was a terrible night. I told them that I was getting married. Oh my God, that was not a good thing. Not a good thing. Anyway,
You fell in
I
love.
did.
You fell in love.
Huh?
You fell in love.
Well, call it what you like.
You would call it that, Nancy. You had 2 kids, wonderful kids.
Yeah, I have 2 wonderful kids. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Oh, jeez.
So, any other memories that you would like to tell us about Orangevale, or?
Well, we had a great family, and my mom liked to have gatherings, and we had a lot of Easters here.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And they made it a big affair. I mean, it was, and we don't do that anymore. So I really miss it. But
It was
Thanksgivings
wonderful.
and Christmases, and my mom could cook for 2 people or 300 in a flash. So yeah.
She sounds like a marvelous woman.
Oh yeah, she was. Yeah.
She was.
They did.
They both
They
were.
had quite a relationship. Mom was engaged to somebody else, and that didn't work out because her mother introduced my mom to my dad.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they lived together for a year. And
Shocking
my
in those
grandmother
days.
didn't talk to them for about 2 years. So that was the scandal.
Yes.
Don't
But
blame
it
me.
lasted 51 years. So, yeah.
The one thing about Orangevale and the 3, Lois, Dad, and Dolores, we started a Saturday breakfast at Campfire Cafe.
That's a big
There you
thing.
go.
That's a big
That's a
thing.
How many years?
Oh, sorry.
Talk about the
Forever.
campfire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't start there. We went to a lot of different places. We went to a place over on Sunrise. We went.
Well, that's after Campfire
That was
closed down.
What about
No,
that
no.
place on
Was
Hazel
it?
and,
Yeah, we started at Campfire.
Hazel and Greenback? What about that place?
You know, I'm sure. You're right. You're
But then when
right.
John Trailer closed the restaurant down, we had to go someplace else, and I think it was over on Sunrise.
You're right. So we went to
Didn't
several
you-
different places.
didn't you go
Waffles
They
were-
called.
Didn't you go to Hazel and Greenback?
Yeah.
That little Emily's or whatever it was called?
Annie's.
Annie's.
No, that
Several-
wasn't even there.
They went
It
several
wasn't?
places.
No.
They kind of hit different places.
Yeah.
So there was Waffle Square. There was the Jewish place up on the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, the-
Yeah,
We
he
ate
went
there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we ate
Do you
there.
remember the name of that?
Sam's.
It's Sam's.
Deli.
Oh,
yeah.
right. I
Sam's
remember
Deli.
Sam's.
Deli.
When John's Campfire Cafe closed, what was her name that called? the young-
Leota?
No. A little waitress there. She was darling.
Oh.
Not Barbara.
No,
No, and not her either. One of the waitresses called and said, Nancy, I wanted to let you know. She says, we're closing Saturday, so we will not be open anymore. I said, oh, well, okay, but we'll see you Saturday. She said, no, you didn't hear what I said. She says, we're closing. And we were devastated. It was terrible. So my daughter and I got a piece of huge butcher paper and made a huge sign that said, Dear John family and friends, thanks for the memories. And put it on the front, it was big, put it on the front of the cafe. And people came and wrote little notes on it. But yeah, that was tough. But we continued that, didn't we?
We are still doing
still-
a
Well,
Saturday
we are,
breakfast.
you know what, thank you. We are still doing that.
Ashley's
And every Saturday.
Ashley's, yeah.
And it's kind of it's always a surprise because we never know who's going to be there, right?
You're always there. You are the one who makes it happen.
Well, oh, don't
But they
say
always
that.
ask
'Cause
the first one how many are going to be here, and you never know. So,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Oh,
6
we've
or
had-
7. There's always 30.
We've had, yeah,
yeah, there's always at least 4.
at least.
I think there was only once that Fred and I went up there and it was just us. And I don't know what had happened.
One time there was just you and I.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, yeah,
Lot of
we're
room,
still
lot of
doing
chairs, lot of
that.
seats.
Rod
Yeah.
and Les and myself, maybe my kids, maybe not, maybe Julie, maybe not. But you just never knew. Friends, neighbors, whoever wants to come. It's just really fun.
Rod, now that you've been talking, you need to introduce yourself.
My name's Rod Hill, and I've lived in Orangevale pretty much most of my life. I've left a few times and come back. Dad built a home over on the corner of Elm and Filbert.
What are your parents' names?
Yeah. Oh, Marion and Bud is what they call George, my dad's name. Hill.
Uncle Bud.
Uncle Bud.
Bud.
Yeah. And so he built that little house, and they've been gone for some time, and the home has been rented out a few times. But I moved in about 5-6 years ago, and I'm there now still.
Well,
He's
we'd
a
love to
gardener,
come
too.
over and interview you sometime. Yes.
Huh.
Why are you surprised?
That's good.
Absolutely.
We're going to give her a lot of business.
Oh, I tell you.
Well, she's
Well,
been
if you're going to
backlogged.
interview Rod,
I gotta go.
you should also pick up
You got to
Les.
You got an
My
appointment.
brother, yes.
The two of them together have
Tonight.
some
That'd be
incredible
crazy.
stories.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
That'd be fun.
He was supposed to be here, and I'm not sure why he didn't show up, but
Do you
he's
want-
got a great memory.
Do you want to finish up with Julie though, because she's got to go?
Now, I want
Oh,
to
she's gonna
interview
do
her
this separate.
separately.
Oh, you're going to do
Yes.
her totally separate?
Yes.
Oh
Yes,
no.
because
big
she's
family.
she's a Vandevort, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I am.
I want because I have that in my notes somewhere. I'm not sure. I think it was Jim Call, the 98-year-old. That I'll have to look back in my notes.
What's his name?
Jim Call.
I didn't know that name at
C-A-L-L?
all.
I may be mistaken, but Jim Call.
C-A-L-L? Call?
No, it wasn't Mr. Call. Somebody in here. Somebody I interviewed. Oh, Jean Vandevort. Inez Hill.
Oh,
Who's Inez Hill?
Is Dolores. My mother thought her name was Inez all her life, and then she found out her name was Dolores Ramona Hill.
Well,
Really?
see, that's why I need
Yeah.
to interview you.
Oh, and she married Charles Vandevort.
Okay. And who's Jean?
My uncle,
Okay,
my
we'll-
father's
We'll
uncle.
talk about
He's
this.
passed away, but his sister is alive, turning 100.
Well, see, Jim Call's 98. They went to school together.
Oh, I have to tell him. My
Yes.
aunt.
Yes.
Where does he live?
He lives, it's off of Old Auburn. Do you know where the 7-Eleven is?
Kind of.
right on Old Auburn. There's a little court, and he lives right there.
Okay.
He's dark.
Oakdale Court.
Oakdale Court. He's adorable.
Oh,
Adorable.
they should talk
Yes.
with my aunt.
Definitely.
Julie, your family was here in the 1900s, really early days.
Really?
Yeah, at least I looked it up and that's what I found. I can give you the dates,
Well, my mom was born in 1920.
but the Vandervoorts were here.
The
before.
Vandervoorts were here.
I
all
think
that
so,
time.
yeah. I think they owned a lot of property.
Well, you
around.
might learn a lot too.
You know, my Uncle Gene and Aunt Nada, they don't know anything about their grandparents. So I didn't even know how to,
There's a lot of people that.
you know. You know.
And we'll talk about it. Research it for us, please, and we'll talk about it when we interview you, because I'm
Okay.
very excited about that.
Okay, I live in
running into
Davis.
Vandervoorts
You can
all
call
the
me.
time.
We'll come. We can come to Davis. Psst.
Oh, well, I love to come here on a minute's notice.
Well, that would be up to Nancy.
Whatever,
well, yeah.
whatever works.
Okay.
Whatever works.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
But
Are you
don't
heading
forget
out?
Dennis.
Yeah.
No.
okay.
No.
I'll talk to you
And
later.
Dennis.
I know.
Don't fall.
Separate interview. This
Oh
will
yes, because of
This will be-
Elliot's.
be exactly and just everything. So yes.